So the Playhouse was founded in 1929. We've been in our space on Anaheim Street since 1951. Our mission is to celebrate the human experience while encouraging the participation of artists and audience alike. Well, I think the Long Beach Playhouse is unique in a couple of different ways. We are a true community theater of Long Beach. You know, we have volunteers on our stages, and we do our art for our community. And since we have two separate stages, we get to do a lot of different types of theater: comedies, dramas, musicals, classics, new works, edgier contemporary stories. So we get to hit all of the different types of theater throughout the year. So we get to be kind of we get to hit every audience and at least one show out of the year everybody's going to like. On our main stage, that's our thrust stage on the first floor, has 200 seats, and that has a more family-friendly season. We usually do a murder mystery, some comedies, some dramas. We do our annual holiday Christmas Carol, and we have a big summer musical. Upstairs in our studio, we have a shorter season, 5 shows that are usually a bit more contemporary and a bit more adult-oriented and diverse issues and themes that kind of represent more of the Long Beach community. With our studio season, we have 5 shows a year, and that only takes up from April through about mid-November. Then the rest of the year, we're able to use our studio space to do the collaborative series. So our artistic director will get applications from outside theater groups or individual artists that don't necessarily have their own space to perform, and they get to bring their show to an established theater. They produce the work, we present the work, and then we get to expose our audiences to new types of theater they may not normally see, and then the outside theater companies get to have the legitimacy of working with a long-standing theater. So we've gotten to work with lots of different types of groups and have had full-out musicals up on our stages, a one-man show, a dance troupe, a comedy show. So we get to have an eclectic experience throughout the collaborative series. So our New Works Festival, I think, is very important because in its name, it's New Works. With our regular seasons, we always do established productions that have a following or have won some awards of some sort to get the audiences in. So with the New Works Festival, we're able to expose our audience to something brand new, something that has never been performed before, and that's always exciting to have our audiences see something brand new and depending on, what the story is about, learn something, cry about something, laugh about something. So I think it's very important for our audiences to see something that is brand new that has never been done before. But we think that since we are a community theater, we should be representing our community along with, in this area, with the New Works Festival, having a local person that we get to expose to our community and to share their talents and share their work.
People should definitely attend the Long Beach Playhouse New Works Festival because the Long Beach Playhouse is showing itself as an organization that is not afraid to experiment and try new types of plays, new ways of engaging the audience. People want to get back out there now that the pandemic seems to be receding. And theater has to find a way to engage people in new ways. And I think Long Beach Playhouse is doing that. I know that my play, Billie Sits for Carl, Annotated, is an unusual play, one that people will find engaging, and I think it'll be worth your while to check it out. So please come. My name is Chuck Cummings. I'm the playwright of Billie Sits for Carl, Annotated, a winner of the New Works Festival at the Long Beach Playhouse. If you want to know more about my play or about the festival, listen to this recording. I heard about the festival about a year ago now, and the moment I heard about it, I was thinking to myself, oh, wow, that would be a fantastic place to have my piece read. Part of it was geographic proximity because I wanted to be available in case I was needed. I also wanted my friends to be able to come. And since I live here in Southern California and the reading is here in Southern California, that made it, something that I was really, really interested in. And I have a friend who had a production at Long Beach Playhouse a long time ago, and I had been there and I had seen a production there. I forget exactly which production it was, but it's a place that I knew, and it's a place that I knew would be willing to embrace the not quite experimental, but different elements of this play. This is not a straightforward play. It's not experimental, but it is not using the normal structures and tropes that one expects in plays. So I literally, when I got the email saying that my play was one of the winners of the New Works Festival, I literally gasped and just was really happy. Let me first mention that the play, Billie Sits for Carl, annotated. Yes, annotated is part of the title, and you'll see if you come see the reading. It's about an actual visit that Billie Holiday, the jazz singer, made to a photographer named Carl Van Vechten, who lived in Manhattan. This visit at Carl Van Vechten's Central Park West apartment happened in 1949. And I'm exploring not only what happened in terms of the fireworks between the two of them, the friction between the two of them, the night of the photo shoot at the apartment, but some greater truths. And this particular idea has probably been percolating at some level in my head for close to 20 years. Yeah, 20. He said 20, 20. Because I saw an art exhibit of the photographs of Carl Van Vechten a long time ago at a museum in Miami. And I was just struck by this documentation of people like Ella Fitzgerald and Paul Robeson and Billie Holiday and others. And that was basically the seed that eventually turned into Billie Sits for Carl. So I guess that's it's also a statement about how sometimes I write fast and sometimes I don't. Sometimes things just take a while before they really click. And then I really have to get it out. So basically, in the fall of 2021 was when the idea really came back to me again. And so it took me about 6 months to get the play together, 6-7 months. But that's what Billie Sits for Carl annotated is. It's basically a seed that started germinating 20 years ago. The main characters, as I mentioned before, are Billie Holiday and Carl Van Vechten, and they actually did meet on, I think it was March 23rd, 1949, for a photo shoot that lasted all night. In the real story, also there was the wife of Carl Van Vechten, Fania Marinoff. She is in this play. And also the assistant / occasional lover of Carl Van Vechten, Saul Maraber. He was also there that night. And there's also an additional character in this play, the playwright, who is manipulating what happens on this particular night. So the general story arc is that when Billie Holiday arrives, there are certain types of pictures that Carl Van Vechten wants to get from her. Specifically, one of the things that I found in my research was, and this is spoiler alert for anyone who's interested, it's just a reading, so there's no such thing as spoilers spoiling readings. But one of the things I found is that Carl Van Vechten, this married gay man, also sometimes liked to take photographs of women's breasts. And there are a couple of pictures, for example, of Carl Van Vechten doing topless photos of this old Broadway / movie star named Pearl Bailey, who was, very famous in the latter half of the 20th century. And so within the construct of the play, that's one of Carl's goals with Billie? Will he be able to get her to go that far? But of course, this is also the playwright speaking. I'm talking about the playwright in the play. So you can't necessarily believe what the playwright is manipulating these characters to do. But the overall arc is about this photo session and what will happen in this photo session. And it touches on my love for non-cliched, non-traditional goals in theater. I certainly appreciate the plays that can tug my heartstrings and make me cry. I'm an easy crier. So, there are commercials on television that bring me close. But I'm not trying to do that in this play. I'm actually hoping that this particular play will stimulate certain conversations, some about race, but actually more about truth and manipulation of truth, and what is appropriate and what is not appropriate in terms of our manipulation of truth. I mean, our whole lives depend on stories, which are manipulations of truths. All of our lives are dependent on stories which manipulate us and aren't necessarily true. George Washington did not chop down a cherry tree, even though we were taught that as kids. So there is an exploration of what's appropriate in terms of the manipulation of truth. But even more than that, what's interesting is that one of my guiding principles in playwriting is I want people to be entertained. I know it's a bad word, but I want people to step out of that theater with a renewed knowledge and interest in the characters that were on the stage, and also a feeling of, hey, that was worth my 2 hours or whatever. So I know that that's an odd thing for a playwright to say, but I do want the experience to be worthwhile to the audience. It's a wonderful, horrifying experience that's happened to me before. When I am sitting in the audience and a piece of mine is being read or performed, it's like my blood pressure drops. I start to freeze. I actually start to shiver at times, which is really interesting because I'm a playwright. I'm hidden. It's like I'm not an actor. I mean, I could not handle it probably if I were an actor. But I am completely tuned in to the audience's reactions. And so I am looking forward to hearing the audience's reactions. B, I'm interested in what the actors and director bring to the words, because the way that the play is constructed, again, anyone who goes, and I do encourage you to go, it's going to be interesting. There's an odd construction of language, an odd use of language that I use in this play. And I want to hear what the actors do with that language to see whether or not it works, because ultimately, the words on the paper mean nothing. They have to be able to be used by the actors. So I want to see, how that turns out. And there's a panel discussion afterward, and I'm really looking forward to that because I've already gotten a set of notes from Long Beach Playhouse, and the notes were excellent. They were very perceptive and told me a few things that I will be using, when I tweak the play going forward. But I really am looking forward to hearing the audience's reactions, the actors' interpretations, and just seeing what happens during the panel discussion. People should definitely attend the Long Beach Playhouse New Works Festival, because the Long Beach Playhouse is showing itself as an organization that is not afraid to experiment and try new types of plays, new ways of engaging the audience. People want to get back out there now that the pandemic seems to be receding. And theater has to find a way to engage people in new ways. And I think Long Beach Playhouse is doing that. I know that my play, Billie Sits for Carl, Annotated, is an unusual play, one that people will find engaging, and I think it'll be worth your while to check it out. So please come. I just want people to understand about the play that it is still a work in progress. I say that just in terms of letting people know that nothing is locked, and I consider a New Works Festival to be an integral part of the life of this play, to see where it needs to go next. I like the play a lot as it is, but I'm not vain enough to think that there are not things that I haven't seen, that there are not things that I haven't really understood that I need to correct. So I'm excited about this reading as part of a process that started 20 years ago, perhaps, with me seeing these photographs of Carl van Vechten, and a process that's going to go beyond the reading, but the reading is a major milestone in this process. I encourage people to come to the reading at the Long Beach Playhouse, and if you're an artistic director somewhere and are interested in doing a full production of Billie Sits for Carl, annotated, let me know. Hey, you can even contact me through my website. I wonder how you get to my website. So I would love to have a full production of this play. There are certain elements of the play, in fact, that won't be present during the reading. I negotiated with the Carl van Vechten Foundation to actually use his photos in the play, but the reading is all about the words of the play. So although in a full production, there are many photos which are going to be displayed for dramatic reasons, they won't be present in the reading at the Long Beach Playhouse. But I fully encourage and fully hope for a full production at some point in time. Hi, my name is Chuck Cummings. I'm the playwright of Billie Sits for Carl, Annotated, which is one of the winners of the Long Beach Playhouse New Works Festival, and will be having a reading on March 31st at 7 p.m., and I want you to be there. See you at the theater.
First and foremost, I think they will be entertained. I do. I think they will walk away just saying that was a really good night out. And I hope she has a bigger production. I would see it again, or I would tell my friends about it. I think they will be enlightened a bit, that they can be entertained and enlightened at the same time. And I think that they will feel some sort of connection. I mean, you said it about you like Wendy Wasserstein. I connected with her immediately with all her plays. I feel the same way. All the plays I like, I feel the audience will connect. They will have a good time, first and foremost. They will say it's much better than staying home. It's much better than watching da-da-da. Oh, how come I haven't heard about her before? It's funny how, she can write about illness and even make it funny. I also must say that my play is a lot, and it's about having a person with a mental illness in a family and how it impacts on the family and how it impacts on the children. And that is always underlying my play. And I do think that many families do not want to deal with mental illness, or still in this day and age have a problem with psychotherapy. And if I get some people to maybe look at themselves a little bit more in the process of being entertained, I would be delighted to have them look at, oh, she loved me. She did the best she could. She had an illness, and that's why she was the way she was. It wasn't about me. And the mental illness within the family and within ourselves, I hope it continues to be looked at, without any struggle, without anything. In New York, there's more therapists than there are people in therapy. I mean, it's kind of a way of life. Hi, I'm Nancy Davidoff Kelton. I am the playwright who wrote Finding Mr. Wrightstein. And It is one of the 2 winners of the Long Beach Playhouse New Works Festival, and it will be read April 1st. I hope to see you there, and I'm very excited, a little nervous to be there, and I hope you are just excited. Please listen to this interview about my play. It was a lot of fun, even though my earring fell off. It was a lot of fun being here and talking to you all. I think that the staged reading of Finding Mr. Wrightstein is going to be as much, if not more, fun. I fell in love with Long Beach Playhouse when I sent it to them for a lot of reasons. And I thought they were, if you want me to tell you specifically, I wanted to go to a New Works festival, and there didn't seem to be restrictions. I didn't have to be a California resident or a certain age or have a certain theme, which some theaters do, and it said New Works. Then I wrote and asked if I could send 2 10-minute sections that work and the full-length play. And that same day, Jane Nunn wrote me back, the very same day, send us your full-length work. And I thought that was very responsive and very respectful of the writer. And I have felt since that contact that Long Beach Playhouse has been very respectful of the writer. And then Madison Mooney wrote me and said, this is what works if we accept your play. And then she said, we welcome you to our family. That there was no acceptance then, but it was just, we welcome you. I thought that was very lovely and welcoming. A combination of the pandemic and who I am, I am very attracted to warmth. And I felt Long Beach Playhouse people were very warm. Then Sean Gray wrote me and told me what to expect. And I've written him a few times, like he had asking him to repeat that. And he also wrote me back the same day. And I think my questions were a little nudgy. I was besides being very excited, I'm a little nervous, and I let him know that, but he didn't make me feel that I was a nudge. He just answered them. And everybody has been so, so lovely. And I felt that the description of what they expected was just welcoming. I write a catalog description for the new school where I teach. It's a little different from other writing classes descriptions, and I get warm students. I get students who feel engaged to me right away, and I felt this engagement with Long Beach Playhouse. I wrote a book on writing because I've been a writing teacher for 40 years and writing from personal experience. That was grew out of an article I wrote for Writer's Digest. Then I wrote my memoir, Finding Mr. Wrightstein, from which I adapted the play. And the memoir, my memoir, Finding Mr. Wrightstein, after my mother died, I wrote about her illness and how it impacted on me, both as a child, feeling unlovable, and then in my adult relationships. Why am I the only person who doesn't have the gene to sustain a relationship? And I was writing about dating, and I was writing about my dad, who I was attached to, but there was a price with that. And somehow I put that all together, was who I was as a little girl, why it's taking a reasonably smartish, person, decent enough company, having such a tricky time with a partnership. And I put it together, and I thought both of those topics, not having perfect parents, which everybody in the world, I know one person who didn't relate, and she didn't stay in my class very long, and struggling in relationships, and is it about them, is it about me, what's going on? I put it all together, and I typically see some humor in the pain, and I started sending it out, and there was my memoir. And when I launched Finding Mr. Wrightstein, the book, I had the best time reading sections with dialogue. I think that if I I love dialogue. If I didn't write dialogue, I probably would. I hear voices. I think I'd be in a padded cell. It's my favorite thing. Describing things is more work for me than having my characters talk to each other. And I know playwriting is so much more than that. The first piece I ever sold 50 years ago was called The Teacher's Lunchroom, and it was about two first-grade teachers discussing their classes and the reading in each of their classes and their pettiness a little bit in the teacher's lunchroom. But the whole piece was in dialogue, and it's the most fun I have writing. Of course, playwriting is so much more difficult than just, it's what to take out and this and this. I'm learning so much in this process, but it's fun, the writing of dialogue. I don't know if it was a need, but I tell my students, and I feel the same way about me, that if there's not a sense of urgency, you shouldn't write it. There has to be some kind of urgency. I just recently lost a friend, and the end of her life, I'm very pulled into our last few visits, and I wrote about it, and I just had the piece published. And the writing about my mother and having a fractured relationship and making peace with her and finding a place for her to live after my father died, I think they're very universal things, mothers and daughters, and the struggle, and then what to do with mom when she can't take care of herself. Do I take her in? Do I put her in a home? The guilt about putting her in a home, all those things. I was writing bits and pieces of that in the memoir, and then making short plays and having readings. And people came up to me after, I'm going through that with my mother. You made me cry. This is what I'm going through. And I think what I say is very relatable. Instead of staying too long with men who are not going to be keepers. It just all came together, and I wanted to tell this story, and I can't write about other, finding Mr. Wrightstein is somewhat fictionalized. And I went deeper than I did in the memoir, but I think my story is a story that is very, very, the deeper I go and the more personal I am, the more universal it seems to me that it is. So Joanna, age 50-ish, is divorced, and her father has died, and he's still her main man. She can't quite go forward. And he filled up a lot of space for a lot of reasons. It's partly her and partly the two of them. And she wants to move on. And her mother's in a home, and she goes out with people. She goes to her therapist to find out why is my life not exactly working. And there's flashbacks to who her father and mother were with her, and they both put her down in the looks department. So she didn't think that she was very pretty, and that was difficult. And she had to sort out what was them. I guess we all do. And I think what's our parents and what is us, and what do we carry? And we do carry so much of our past with us, and the stuff, what's self-sabotaging, until we work it out. Oh, they had a problem, and I am lovable. And it takes a lot of work to find oneself and to love oneself enough, I think, to love another person. And I think that's the story I wanted to tell. I want them to all call their artistic director friends and and producer friends, and say, when are we going to see the production? Because I want to buy 2 rows for my friends. I want the audience to say after, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. And the real truth is, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at that line. It touched me and it amused me, and I want them to say, I went through that with my daughter. I went through that with my mother. I went through that till I met the guy I was supposed to, be with. It took me a long time to see myself, but I want them to say, how did you know what I was feeling? It felt like you were walking in my shoes. I felt like I was walking in yours. I made a connection with Joanna. I hope that there is a reaction. I hope that sometimes there's a gasp or a chuckle where I might not think there would be. When I was talking to Meredith, the director, she said there was a line, it was so tiny. And she said, but it showed the change in Joanna and her mother's relationship. And I am so touched that she found that the tiny lines show the arc, things changing in the play. I want to feel that the audience is feeling it and getting it and saying, oh my God, she's like writing about me, or how'd she know? I want to have that feeling. I want to feel that I'm connecting. I think people have, if people who get in touch with themselves have stories to tell. And if my telling my story about having a mother who was ill, and it impacted on me, and it impacted on my sister, and how I viewed men, and how I viewed love. Oh, she can write about that. You don't have to have a terminal illness, and you don't have to have sexual or physical abuse to write a story. I think many people have stories to tell, and maybe it will empower them to tell their stories, and certainly listen to one that's entertaining. People will hear it. The standing room only audience on April 1st. I saw the humor in death, and I think having a sense of humor is what keeps us going for a while, a passion and a sense of humor. So I hope people see that I saw that in things, and that they will look at things that way and feel free to express what's in their heart and their soul. I'm Nancy Davidoff Kelton. I won the Long Beach New Works Festival 2023, along with Chuck Cummings, and my play will be read, a staged reading, April 1st at 7:00. I would love to see you there. I'd love to meet you during the intermission or after. I would love to hear your feedback at the panel discussion after with the cast, the director, drama critic, and me. I would love to hear what you think needs tightening, where I went on too long, where you want more, where you say this worked beautifully, or I don't get why you stuck that in. I am very open. I am a born reviser, and I think this is a beginning. I would like to come back and present you with a production, and I would love to shake your hand and see you there and hear a lot of what you have to say and who you are and what you do. And the more, the merrier. I don't think we're going to drink in the theater, but we can hold up our pretend glasses and share a moment. I will see you at the theater April 1st at 7. I'll probably be there a little bit early, changing seats and saving one for my daughter, who's going to arrive a little bit later, and saving one for a cousin. I don't know people in the Long Beach area, so I'd like to meet you. So come over and I'll wave to you. If you're watching this now, you'll recognize me. I don't know if I'll have my glasses on. I might be biting my nails a little bit, biting my fingers, but I would love to meet you there. And I'd love to hear your feedback, and I'd love to hear who you are. So I'll see you April 1st at 7, and then again at 9 when the play is over, and then after the talk back. Thank you so much for listening, and see you soon.